Pros, save more on the materials you need to get the job done, inside and out, at Lowe's. Right now, get 10% off in-stock Trex Naturals decking, now available in more styles. Plus, get 15% off select custom entry, interior, and storm doors. Then, we'll deliver it all straight to your job site to help keep your jobs moving. Get the brands pros trust, priced right, and ready when you need them. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 5/27. While supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Hey guys, welcome to You the Boss Podcast, episode 89. And I'm going to dive right in today. We live in a world that glorifies the grind. You wake up early, you push harder, you do more, you be more. And while I believe that ambition can be powerful, there is a little bit of a quiet truth that people aren't talking about. You can be building your dream life and still feel emotionally exhausted while doing it. So today we're going to talk about something real, something messy but necessary. And that's, how do you keep chasing your goals while also healing the parts of you that are still hurting? There is a myth, and that myth is, I'll do this when. I'll heal later. A lot of us operate with this mindset. We operate with, I'll deal with my emotions once I get this done. Once this week passes, things will slow down. I'll slow down after this season. I'll rest when I've made it. I'll rest when I get there. But here's the problem. Healing doesn't wait for a convenient time. Healing doesn't wait for this week to be over, for things to slow down, for this season to pass. If anything, the faster you move without addressing what's underneath, the louder it gets. There's burnout, there's anxiety, depression, self-doubt, overthinking, emotional shutdown. You cannot outrun yourself. And if you're constantly achieving and constantly pushing and not processing, you end up feeling empty in moments that we're supposed to feel fulfilling. This is something that is kind of very personal and prominent in my life. And that's because, if you're new here, my mom passed away in August of 2025, which at the time of the recording of this episode was about 9 months ago. And during the last couple of years of my life, I have completely uprooted everything in my life, and it has completely changed my relationships, where I live, who I am, everything. And very quickly, I caught on to understand that who I was navigating my life as is no longer the person that is needed in the present. And that is, some of that is around grief, some of that is around the healing, but also it is centered around the grind, the always being busy, the always going. And I want to discuss a little bit of that today because it's important. This month is Maternal Mental Health Month. And if you're a mom listening to this, that's very relevant. If you're not a mom listening to this, it's still very important for us to address not healing while we're moving. So let's discuss a little here about hustle culture versus human needs. I am an ambitious person. So if you're listening to this and you're like, please don't sit here and tell me that being ambitious is a sin, it's not. I'm just here to address what hustle culture is and how that is versus human needs. If this hits a little bit of a nerve, good. Tell me about it. I want you to tell me about it in the comments. I want you to message me. I want you to go on my YouTube and I want you to give me that feedback. I want it to be like, ooh, that hit a nerve, because if the shoe fits, wear it. That's just the truth. Hustle culture teaches discipline. And that's such a great thing. I feel as though in a world where there is so much instant gratification, discipline is what propels us forward. But it often also ignores humanity. It tells you, keep going no matter what. Emotions are distractions. Don't sit in your, for lack of a better word, don't sit in your shitty diaper. Rest is a weakness. Pain is a weakness leaving the body. I probably could name them all, to be honest, because I've used them at some point in my life or another. But your body and your mind do not work like machines. And so that hustle culture teaches against that. It makes us want to react like machines. So when we start having these different reactions and we start realizing that we need to slow down or we need to pull back, we suddenly think there's something wrong with us. We suddenly think, "Oh no, I need help. I need this things." And not to say that you guys know I'm an advocate for therapy, but it's not always centered only around that. Your body needs, to know that it's allowed to be ambitious and tired. It's okay to be driven and overwhelmed, focused and healing. Balancing growth and emotional health is not about doing less. It's just about doing things differently. Maybe the routine that you were able to function through 10 years ago just doesn't work for you anymore now because now you're just a different person. You're in a different body. And this can look very different. This can look like, you used to be the person that got up at 4 a.m. to get a workout in and get your day started because going to the gym is your thing. That is your therapy. You do enjoy it. But now, if you get up earlier, you also have children. You also have a spouse. You also have a very demanding job where you work 11 hours. So, getting up at 4 a.m. is kind of counterproductive. We're going to make this practical. We're going to make what healing while hustling actually looks like. Healing while hustling doesn't mean that you stop your life, it doesn't mean that you let go of your goals. It means that you move through life more intentionally. It looks like you check in on yourself daily, not just what do I need to get done, but how do I feel today? Let's acknowledge how we're feeling on a day-to-day basis. Number 2, it's redefining productivity. Some days showing up emotionally regulated is the win. Some days resting is the productive. It is the, you know what, let me recharge. Number 3, letting yourself feel without guilt. This one is this one is very centered around cultural things. It's centered around how we may have grown up, what we understand to be about rest. You don't need to earn your rest. You don't need to justify your emotions. You don't need to say, "Oh, this was my trigger." Sometimes you just wake up and the heaviness is heavier today than it was yesterday. Not because of anything in particular, other than it just is. You don't need to justify that. You don't need to earn your rest. Number 4, building habits to support your nervous system. This one is this is just the real of it. It's walking without your phone. It's journaling instead of bottling things up. It's saying no when something feels off. This isn't a weakness, this is sustainability. This is acknowledging that you have feelings, acknowledging that for you to move through these feelings, see, not move past them, but to move through them, it's acknowledging that for this to be sustainable for you, you need to acknowledge things as they are. This is really an important topic because, like I mentioned, I am in therapy and I have met a lot of different people through my grief journey presently that are navigating different forms of grief. And they are just suddenly in shock of how quickly we're expected to show back up to everything. If you're in the United States, I won't pretend to know the statistics, but I do know that a lot of jobs, they give you 3 days of bereavement, and then you're expected to go back to work, show up, and produce. And the hustle culture has kind of treated this part of things to be very systemic, very machine like. And so if you're not fitting into that mold, I'm here to tell you that you're not alone, but also it's because you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to fit into this mold of just getting right back to it. There is an identity shift that happens when you are healing and also pursuing goals. You you might have built your life up until this point as being the strong one, the reliable one, the one who always pushes through. But healing asks you to become someone else. It asks you to be the person that listens to themselves, be the person who sets boundaries, the person who doesn't abandon themselves for success. That shift can be very uncomfortable. It can be very scary. But who you are is someone very important outside of always just pushing through. The truth is, your power doesn't come from burnout, it comes from alignment. It When you grow, it should not cost you yourself. And this is something that I want you to really sit with. I want you to fully acknowledge, and then we'll get into some tools. You know, growth doesn't have to cost you yourself. If What's the point of you building a life that you love if you're too drained to enjoy it? Sustainable success is built differently. It's built with boundaries, it's built with self-awareness, it's built with emotional honesty. And yes, it takes longer. It does take longer. It's almost like taking the long way somewhere. The GPS says the fastest way to get there, and like most of the time we take the place that's the fastest because we're like, well, I want to get there as fast as I can. But sometimes in our lives, it does take us longer to get somewhere, but also it feels better and it lasts. This type of success, this type of healing, this type of growing through this, it lasts. It's more emotionally regulating so that the next time that you do face something that is just so atrocious in grief, whatever that could mean to you, you will feel it differently. You will be different, but there will be signs to yourself that I know how to navigate this and I will revert back to this. So I am going to give you a couple of tools, that are working for myself right now that I have, spoken to people in my life about that I feel are important for everyone to know. And it's just a list. I typically try to write things down before an episode so that my thoughts are like as cohesive as possible. So in this episode, there's a little bit of that. But for this particular part of it, I'm just going to list things off that I know are working for me right now. And number one is seek professional help, talk to a therapist. It's expensive. If you don't have health care, I will not pretend to act like it's not, like it doesn't cost money. So that could maybe look like just chatting with a mental health specialist right now. It could mean just reaching out to groups, putting yourself in a grief group or putting yourself in group therapy so that you're able to just attain that. You're able to do that. I'm going to let you know that you should read different stories about what people that have been through what you're going through, what they've done to keep themselves moving and grooving and becoming. Because that's very important to say that you're not just moving past something, you are growing through it. The third thing I would say is journal. I know that it's so cliche to say because it feels like everyone is journaling now. And some days journaling can look like actually writing out your thoughts, and then other days it's just brain dumping. Just brain dump. Just write it all down. Just put it all on paper. Get it off your brain. Even though that doesn't get things done all the time, it does help you feel better. It's like your brain just being able to clean itself out on a piece of paper. So definitely do that. And for my grievers, specifically for this episode, I'm going to tell you the thing that is so cliche when it comes to specifically dealing with the loss of something, whether that's someone, maybe it's, your sense of self, your identity, who you've become, maybe a career shift. I'm going to tell you to feel it. I'm going to tell you to feel your feelings. This past weekend, it was Mother's Day. And I wanted Mother's Day to be over so fast because I just didn't want to sit in the uncomfortability that everyone was celebrating their mom, and I was not able to celebrate her the way that I wanted to. And at some point in the middle of the week, I was like, but wait a second. I'm so lucky to have a mom. I still have my mom. She's transitioned and she's passed, and that's something really hard to navigate some days. I won't pretend to act like it's not, but I want to honor her. And so I made a kind of deal with myself that if I felt upset, if I felt, I still have things to do. I'm planning for my son's birthday party. I launched a different podcast. I'm in photography. I am doing things. I am hustling. And at the same time, some days it's just so hard to get through that. So I just made a deal with myself and I said, if you feel like crying, you should cry. And if you feel like you don't want to move, then you should honor that and sit like you don't want to move, because this is your first Mother's Day without your mom, and there is no blueprint for this. There is no book for this. And this is what you need to do. So the biggest thing that I could tell you is to feel your feelings, because not feeling them really isn't an option. Trying to suppress them makes them worse. So just feel them. In closing, I want to say that if you're in a season where you're chasing big goals, maybe you just got a new job and you're in a different career set, but you're also dealing with internal battles, you're dealing with, different things that you need to heal through or you need to get through. I want you to know and look at yourself in the mirror and understand that you're not behind, you're not weak, you are not anywhere where you don't need to be. And you don't have to choose between healing and succeeding. You're allowed to do both. But it starts with giving yourself the permission to slow down internally, even if your life externally is still moving fast, even if you're in a high demand career, because the goal isn't just to succeed. It's to become someone who can actually hold that success when it arrives. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who's pushing hard lately. Share it with someone who is maybe grieving, maybe they are at a crossroads in their career, in their life. And take a moment today not to do more, but to check in with yourself. I'll talk to you next week.